We appreciate you joining us today as the Panthers officially welcome new general manager Scott Fitterer. Scott is here in the building today. He got to Charlotte a little bit earlier this week. You're going to be hearing from him very shortly. As many of you know, Scott joins us by way of Seattle. Prior to joining the Panthers, he had been with the Seahawks since 2001, most recently served as the team's vice president of football operations. We are excited to have Scott here and excited to get this all started. Just so you know, you will be hearing first from Panthers owner David Tepper, followed by Scott, and then both Dave and Scott will take questions from the media after that. Couple of quick reminders for the media members who will be asking questions later. We ask that you use the raise hand function. We also ask that you turn your camera on so both Scott and Dave can see who they're talking to. And finally, for the best viewing experience, we recommend that you pin the Panthers feed. All right, now that all of that's out of the way, it is time to get started. And for that, I will pass it over to Panthers owner David Tepper.
Hey guys, how you doing? I just want to introduce Scott, but just before I do that, I'll just talk a little bit about the process we went through. And we basically talked to 13 outside people and 2 inside people. Pretty exhaustive search. When we settled on Scott, it was, there's a few different reasons why. One was just the breadth of experience and how he matched up. He had basically was in the draft room with Schneider and Carroll, had, exposure to agents, very knowledgeable about the salary cap, involved with analytics. And just generally speaking, working for a college coach and some of the things that brings with you, the development that Carroll's had with some of his players, having to, deal with later round, later picks. Also, just the way the structure there, you had a bit of a flat structure, something we're trying to do in Carolina, a little bit more open in the departments on all sides. Inside the building. So where he came from and what he's done there, it was just such a great match and idea for us. Just the personality of the individual also, really well regarded as an evaluator out there. Inside the building in Seattle, sort of the person that was described as a calming force between Schneider and Carroll, who could get emotional sometimes, and the guy that calmed down the room, so to speak. But as I said, more than that, just coming from where he came from and dealing with the Carroll and the coach out there and the type of structure that we want to improve on, that was probably the main reasons for the choice. With that, I don't know if Scott's on the phone here. If he wants to say hello and introduce himself.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for being here, even though it's virtually. I look forward to meeting all of you in person once we get the opportunity. I can't tell you how excited I am to be here and to be named general manager of the Carolina Panthers. What a great opportunity. I look forward to working with all of you. First off, I want to thank Dave and Nicole Tepper for this amazing opportunity. Mr. Tepper, from the moment we first spoke on the phone to meeting in person, I felt your energy, your commitment, your passion to creating a championship caliber organization. And I wanted to be a part of that. And I thank you for allowing me to be a part of this process, to work in collaboration with Coach Rule. I also want to thank Coach Rule, just getting to know him over the past 2 weeks on the phone, talking every day, getting to know him. It's been an unbelievable experience. I really look forward to working with him. It's gonna be a great opportunity. And then to Stephen Drummond for all of his sage advice and his smooth style about him. I want to thank him. It really helped during the interview process. And to the entire Panthers organization, to the personnel department, to the coaches, to the football ops, all the way to the business side. I look forward to working side by side with all of you. This is an exciting time. It's going to take all of us to come together, work together to build a championship caliber organization that we can win with over a sustained period of time. I want to thank the entire Seahawks organization. I spent 20 years there. just 20 amazing years with great people, just great experience, learned a lot, first-class organization, top to bottom, tons of leadership. I can't say enough about them, and thank you. I specifically want to thank John Schneider, who's been a great friend, a great mentor, a great boss, someone that I've laughed with daily. I really enjoyed his experience. I wouldn't be here without you. I also want to thank Coach Carroll, Chuck Arnold, Peter McLaughlin, and the entire Allen family for the opportunity I had in Seattle. I also want to thank just a few people in that organization. Trent Kirshner, who should be a general manager right now. Nolan Teasley, Matt Berry, Matt Thomas, Willie Schneider, and Sarah, thank you. I also want to thank my guy, Kirk Parrish. He's been there with me the entire time. Thank you. And then I want to go to my parents. I want to thank them. They've been just such a great influence in my life. They've done everything for me. They supported me, driven me everywhere. They've always been there. I can't say enough to them. I love you. Thank you. To my sisters, my two older sisters who put up with me in all the sports, thank you. And to my sister Lisa, when I was, 6, 7 years old, I'd sit in front of the TV and she would say, or she would complain to my mom, hey, what's Scott gonna do? He just sits in front of the TV and watches football all day. How's he ever gonna make a life for himself? Well, Lisa, here we are. So it's been good. I also want to thank, most importantly, my wife and my kids. Cherish, you've been the rock. You've done so much for us. You're selfless. Thank you for everything you do. To Ella and Cole, you guys are a real blessing to me. I thank you. I love you. I can't wait for you guys to get down here and be a part of the Charlotte community. I also just want to thank a few mentors that I've had in my life. Jerry Shea, Marv Sunderland, Scott, and Ted. Appreciate all you guys have done for me. This past week and a half has been a real whirlwind. I got a call from Mr. Tepper last Sunday, and we had a brief conversation on the phone. And like I said, you could feel the energy and the commitment right away. And I knew there's something special. We had a Zoom interview on Monday morning, and it was intense. It was not a lot of football at that point. It was more about the cap, analytics, and he really pushed me to my limits to figure out what I knew and what I didn't know. And it was a really intense conversation, really thought-provoking, and a lot of probing questions, and I really enjoyed it. And then I hung up, and I wasn't sure how it went. As you sit back and you think, what happened there? And I had a phone call, a plane ticket. A few hours later, I was on a flight the next morning. I got to Charlotte, met with Coach Rule, met with David Tepper and Steven. I tell you what, once I met with them in person, it just took off. The information flow, the philosophies, the change of ideas, where we wanted to go, the growth that we wanted to take place, yet combined old school football with that really resonated with me. And a 3-hour conversation seemed like it was 15 minutes. And it just took off from there. And I was so excited when I left there. So Mr. Tepper called Thursday, took the job, and here we are. So really excited about that. Look forward to building a great organization here in collaboration with Coach Rule. Really exciting time. We're going to make use of a lot of different technology to make smarter, more efficient decisions in the football process without losing our way in terms of football. So in conclusion, I just want to say, hey, listen, we're going to look for every competitive advantage we can find. Whatever it is, we're going to take the information and make the most informed decision that's best for the Carolina Panthers organization. So I can't wait to get started. I want to get with Coach Rule. I want to get with the coaching staff down here in Mobile next week and really get to learn them, to know them, what they're looking for in football players, and get with our personnel staff. We're going to meet down in Mobile. They're going to come up here in February, and we're going to get started on the process of keep building on the foundation the Coach Rule started last season. So I just want to say in conclusion, thank you all for being here. I respectfully request that we don't get into specifics of players today, but I will speak in general terms about the organization, my relationship with Coach Rule, and what we're going to do going forward. So thank you to everyone for being here.
So Scott and Dave will take questions now. As a reminder, please use that raise hand function and turn your video on. We're going to begin with Phil Orban of WSOC.
Hey Scott, Phil Orban from the ABC affiliate here. You mentioned that whirlwind interview process, and you said you didn't know how that first virtual interview went. I'm curious when you realized that it was going to be a good fit, and everybody.
Immediately on the phone call on Sunday night, I thought it would be a good fit. The interview on Monday, the virtual interview, it's hard to get a feel for people over Zoom. It's just that dynamic is missing with the interaction of people. And there were a lot of tough questions. And like I said, it wasn't a whole lot of football. It's more about analytics and salary cap and different things that, are a little bit different to me. There's things that I know, but there are also things that would challenge me. And they came right after me. Like I said, I hung up. But once I met them in person on Wednesday, from almost like the first few minutes of meeting them, it just took off and it just felt right. And it was a great conversation.
Next, let's go to Darren Gant, Panthers.com.
And this is for Dave and Scott. Could you talk about the organizational structure and I guess the decision-making, how that's going to be divided up between Scott and Matt?
Dave, I think you're on mute.
I was going to say this is, I think we're going to, as we had before, actually, pretty collaborative sort of effort between Scott and Matt. I think that, they will, be involved on all these different football decisions together. They're the primary ones making these decisions. There's some practicality of certain things that just the way it is to make things run smoother. Sort of the game day roster makes a little bit more sense for the coach to have a little bit more input, and the overall roster makes a little bit more sense for the GM to really have input into, just because the coach frankly doesn't have time for that as when you're in season. But I think the way we hope it is just a lot of collaboration and really just run like that. And as I said, I think you should think about it wasn't that much different here to begin with. And I think that you should look at, a little bit of what was here, a little bit what was there, and a little bit what will be better for both places in the future. I don't know, Scott, if you want to add anything.
No, I look forward to working with Coach Rule in collaboration. I've never been in a draft room where anyone's ever said, hey, I have the 53, he has the 53. This is something we're going to do together, and we're going to make the best decision for the Carolina Panthers. We're going to work through this. We're going to challenge each other. We're going to study. And in the end, we're going to be combined in our decisions, and we're going to do what's best for the team.
We'll go to Elena Getzenberg of the Charlotte Observer for the next question.
You're on mute.
Okay, you can skip me then.
We'll come back to Elena. Let's go to Joe Person, and we'll come back.
Hey, I have one for each of these guys. Dave, starting with you, if I could. There were reports that you and Matt at various times during the process, maybe you were kind of coming at it from looking for an analytical candidate, more so maybe than Matt, looking for a traditional guy with a scouting background. Was that the case? And then how did you arrive at Scott?
That was not the case. I think we were looking for a person that had, all the different skills. If we were looking for one person, Scott is known as a really good evaluator out there. But what we were looking for together, and I don't think there was me looking for one thing or Matt, I think we're really joint in this. We're looking for things to make us a stronger organization in total. So, whatever Matt And Matt's a really smart guy. I hate to say that, but he's a really smart guy. I mean, he is on some personal level. I'm just making a joke, but I think that there's some things that he hadn't had experience when he was in college, like the salary cap, and I think the exposure to more sort of scouting analytics, if you would say that here, sort of a checks and balances, if you want to say that, would probably be a good thing. That's something that I think me and Matt together were looking forward to, somebody who wanted to embrace that. Somebody doesn't have to be an expert, they just have to embrace it and understand it. So I think that from that perspective, I don't think there was any space between me and Matt and looking for this sort of person. So it's just getting the person to make the organization as strong as possible. And that's what we think. And we had the actual advantage with Scott is that he just came from a very similar organization to what we'll probably be having in somewhere where the coach was a developer of talent, from the college ranks. So that was also an advantage in how he looked at people, looked for people and sort of things like that. I can't remember your second question, if it was.
No, I appreciate it. I was going to direct one towards Scott then. Just Scott, I think I read yesterday with your interview with the team website that you didn't really know Matt before a week or two ago. I think you all share an agent. Wondered kind of how Trace may or may not have played a role, and just kind of any connections you had to Matt or anyone on his staff.
Yeah, I really didn't know him personally, but I knew him professionally. We have a lot of people in common. I got a lot of good feedback across the NFL and how much people love him, how forward-thinking he is, how positive he is, what a developer of talent he is. So I was intrigued by that. Yes, we do share an agent, but that wasn't really a factor in that. Really, when it comes down to it, it was just the person. Like, once we talked, once we hit it off, we had a lot of the same philosophies, and we're developmental based. I believe in that. And I really look forward to working with him. I have no qualms.
All right, let's try going back to Elena Getzenberg.
We can't hear you unless
Okay.
you know something, Elena. We're done.
Still having those same issues. We'll go on to David Newton of ESPN.com for right now.
Yeah, Scott, welcome to Charlotte. Good to talk to you. And talking to folks back in Seattle or connected with theirs, they all said that your mantra in Seattle was to be involved in every deal out there. And without mentioning a certain player's name, if you felt there was a quarterback in Houston that was on the trade blocks, would you be interested?
Well, I'm not going to get into hypotheticals. What I will tell you is we will be in on every deal. We're going to find out where things are going, what the landscape is in the NFL. But before we do anything outside, I need to figure out who's here. I need to figure out this roster. I need to figure out who's on our offensive line, who's on our defensive line. I know them from a 30,000-foot view, but I need to know them from a coach's standpoint. I need to know them from a personnel standpoint and meet these guys and see what they're made up of. So there's a lot of things we're going to be involved with going forward. We're going to be very aggressive in our acquisition process, but it starts with getting to know our team, and just being here for just a few days, I'm just starting that process.
Next, we'll go to Steve Reed of the Associated Press.
Hey, Scott, welcome to Charlotte. I did want to ask you, there's a lot of interest, of course, from fans about particularly the quarterback situation. And if you don't want to address particular names, that's fine. But I would just wonder if you could just discuss what you feel like you have right now with the quarterback situation and what your future there might be.
Again, I'm just starting to learn the players on this team. I do believe in competition at all positions, and we're going to look to raise the level at all positions. We're never satisfied with our roster. So we're going to always look, and I know you're talking about quarterback position. That's something I believe in drafting every year or acquiring at some point, just philosophically. And so overall, I mean, I'm really just need to get here first, figure out our players on our roster, and that's how we're going to go about it.
Go to Scott Fowler from the Charlotte Observer.
Yes, thank you, Scott. Can y'all hear me, by the way? It's not a Charlotte Observer jinx, is it?
No.
Okay, good. Scott, I was another 7-year-old who was watching TV and trying to figure out what to do watching NFL games back then. But my question's actually for Dave. Dave, you've now got, I guess you would say, your guys in the building in terms at the very highest levels. And I wonder how significant that is to you, and how with, you know, some really high level decision making.
You know, I think, you know, coming in here, and I said this before to you guys, I mean, some people criticized me for not making changes initially. Some people criticized me when I thought I got rid of Rivera too early, or I moved on from Rivera too early. I mean, really not, for a lot of years, I wasn't as knowledgeable as I could be. So at this point, I really do think that, while people always hold me responsible before, and I never, you know, hid from that, I think there's just a higher level of, you know, these are the guys that I chose now. So there's no place to hide. I never hide anyways, but for sure there's no place now. So I'm, you know, highly confident in these two guys, and I'm, you know, really excited to have them and then to move forward, you know, move forward with them. I don't know if you asked the second question. I can't remember what it was.
Well, no, that's a great answer. You also referred to it, I think, in one of the Panthers.com interviews as sort of a three-way marriage in between you, Matt, and Scott. And I just wondered how collaborative, how involved, you know, you plan to be, and you know, is it mostly a 30,000-foot view for you, or, you know, would you be involved in, for instance, the quarterback decision?
Look, I get really, at this point, now that I've had more experience, I get really, what's really important to me that the process that we go through is right. Okay, that we do the right analysis and research and background checking, and we're thorough in that. It's not just gut feels, and we do double checking. So I think that I'm more interested in that we have the right processes. If you want to call it that, the right analytical processes. When I say analytical, I don't mean analytics. I mean just, you know, research, doing the right background research and having the right tools to do that, and the right processes when we're making some of these decisions than the decisions themselves. Listen, I'll never be close to the evaluator that, you know, Scott is, or Matt Rule is, for that matter. And I won't try to be that. But as I am somebody who has some idea of how things should be run. And that's where I think my greatest strength will be, and we'll all get involved in.
Thank you.
We'll go now to Jonathan Alexander, the Charlotte Observer.
Hey, Scott, I hope you're doing well. I think I saw in one of the interviews that you wanted to take an aggressive approach to this roster. And I'm curious what that may look like if you have a vision for that.
Yeah, we're gonna do a lot of transactions. We're gonna look at a lot of people, bring a lot of people in the building, churn the roster on the back end, and just really take a look at a lot of different people to see what's out there, what fits our team, and how we can build this going forward. You know, nothing's gonna be status quo. It's all about building and moving forward.
All right, let's go to Brett Jensen of WBT.
Thanks, guys. Two quick questions, one for Scott and one for Dave. Scott, first with you. What is your definition of a franchise quarterback? What does that look like to you?
Someone that can lift the players around them, someone that gives you an opportunity to win when the game's on the line in the fourth quarter, someone that just has the leadership qualities that when they walk in the building, they know that's the person in charge. And those are the most important things. Then you get into the position specifics, the processing, the decision making, the intelligence, the arm strength, the accuracy. But really when it comes down to it, it's the leadership and being able to compete and win when the game's on the line.
Thanks. And Dave, I remember when you introduced Matt Rule at the press conference, you said once you and Steven left the house and you're walking to the driveway, that you immediately knew that's the guy that you wanted. Did you know that immediately with Scott, or was there still some sifting through some people?
No, listen, I think that when we had the first, look, I did, talk to a lot of people and all these people. So this was like 2 weeks of my life, you know what I mean, with these people. There's a lot of people we talked to. We got a lot of information about a lot of different people and a lot of different teams, actually. So it was really good for the organization to pick some of that stuff up. In Scott's case, when I talked to him on the phone. I talked to, other people around him, including Schneider. And we had that first interview. We had that first Zoom interview. He was, definitely strong enough to have him in for, that he was strong enough and had some of the aspects that we were looking for, that he was somebody that should definitely have been in that Final Four for us. And by the way, there was a couple other folks that, maybe kind of pulled themselves out of there for different reasons. So, which is kind of interesting, but Scott was was that strong that he was in that mix, and for all the reasons I talked to you about before.
All right, we'll go to Josh Klein from the Riot Report.
Hey, Scott, welcome to Charlotte. I wanted to ask you about your drafting philosophy in Seattle. Obviously, there was a lot of trading down in the first round. Was that a franchise philosophy? Is that something you plan to bring to Carolina? And then I know that you indicated that you like to watch a lot of concerts on YouTube. Is that all Pearl Jam concerts, or do you like to do a mix of different bands?
In terms of the concerts, we'll listen to just about everything, country, Pearl Jam, whatever it is. As long as it's a good concert, we'll watch it. As far as the draft philosophy, in Seattle, we've historically picked, mid-20s, late 20s over the last 10 years. And when you look at the draft, when you build the board, there's a certain level of player that stops about 16, 17, or 18. So once we're picking at 25, we know we're not going to get those, what we consider players that are going to come in, be impact players. We don't see a big difference between 25 and 40 at that point. But we can move back, acquire picks, and still get the same caliber of player that fits our team. This year, it's going to be a little bit different. We're picking at 8 this year. And so we're in that mix of players. So that gives us the opportunity. We can move up, we can move back. It gives us a lot of flexibility in the draft. And it'll be a new adventure and one that I'm looking forward to. But that's really, if you're not in that top part of the draft, we're going to try to acquire picks.
Next, let's go to Jonathan Jones, CBS Sports.
Hey, Scott, thanks for doing this. And to Josh's point, especially because it's been, 2012 since you had a pick in the top 15 or so. What are the clear separators for you when it comes to those blue chip type players in the top 10, top 15?
The guys that can come in and immediately start for you, make an impact, whether it's a defensive line, left tackle. Those are players that you see coming in, contributing year one. Those are franchise players that you can build on going forward. And that's that ledge that I talk about that usually stops somewhere between 16 or 18.
All right, let's go to Nick Carboni of WCNC.
Hey, Scott. You've had a 3,000 mile view of this franchise for the last 20 years or so. What have you seen from the Carolina Panthers, and what do you want to bring here that maybe they haven't had before?
Well, what I've seen this year on tape is a team that really competes hard, plays hard, is physical. You can see Coach Rule's identity in this team. We played here a few years ago in a playoff game, and I was on the trip and I stood on the sideline. And you could feel the fan base. You could feel the energy of the team. They've always had a lot of talent here, a lot of success. I'm just looking forward to be a part of this and build this going forward so we can have a consistent championship caliber team.
Next, we'll hear from Mike Solarte of Spectrum News.
Thanks very much. Scott, congratulations. Welcome to Carolina. You talked about analytics and draft philosophy. One of your predecessors, who shall remain nameless, was a big believer in drafting offensive linemen, the guys in the trenches. Where do you stack up your philosophies and things that you may have learned from Seattle, from your time in Seattle, and how you'll apply that in terms of building the roster overall?
Sure. Definitely, it starts with the quarterback, but I believe in building a team on both sides of the line, the offensive line, defensive line. You have to be able to protect the quarterback, and you have to be able to get after the quarterback. So in this situation, those are all things that we're going to look at. But at my core, quarterback, offensive line, defensive line is where it's going to start.
All right, let's go to Ashley Mahoney of the Charlotte Post.
God, appreciate your time today. Just making sure that everyone isn't carrying over. 6 minutes, we must be good. All right. But Scott, you spoke to the difficulty of being able to get a feel for people over Zoom during this conversation. And obviously, this is an example of that in this virtual world that we seem to be stuck in for a little bit while longer. But as the process of getting to know players continues, what have you learned throughout the 2020 season that will make this more feasible heading forward in 2021 in terms of connecting with players and going through this hiring process?
Yeah, I think our coaching staff did a great job connecting with the players up there in Seattle over Zoom throughout the spring and summer. And it's kind of the new normal for right now. I just look forward to, when the players walk in the building here, and whether they're in the weight room, in the meeting rooms, wherever, walking around and meeting them, I think that you have to know who a person is and what they believe in and how they, what their competitive makeup is, in order to know if they want to be, if they're the right fit for this team. Everyone can see the physical skill set on tape, but it really comes down to who is the right person for our organization. And so I look forward to meeting all the players and figuring that out.
JB Ricks from Spectrum News is next.
Hey, thank you very much. This question is for our new general manager, Scotty. Scotty, thank you so much for taking out this time and welcome to Carolina. My question goes back to your time in Seattle, how that relationship with Pete Carroll can be applied with the relationship that you're going to build with Matt Rule, and what are the main positives you see in the chemistry you and Rule will be able to build?
Sure. There are a lot of similarities that are taking place. Coach Carroll was hired first in Seattle. He was involved in the process of hiring John Schneider at that point. Watching them work together, Pete was in charge early on, but watching them work together, collaborate, the trust that was built, the fact there was no ego involved, and just the way they challenged each other and had a conversation. Those two, without really knowing each other prior to, developed a really deep relationship with each other, and to this day they really rely on each other. And that's what I look forward to with Coach Rule. It's a very similar situation. It takes two people, no egos, and really just wanting to do what's best for the organization. And I'm blessed to have a firsthand look at that over the last 10 years, and I look forward to doing that here in Carolina.
All right, we're going to do two more questions. We're going to try to go back to Elena Getzenberg. She's on a new device. Elena.
Can you hear me? Is it working?
Yes, Elena.
Great. I'm so sorry about all that. Scott, couple questions for you. First, what do you think is your biggest challenge, like coming into this job? What do you feel like is the biggest obstacle that you have to overcome? And then do you plan on bringing anyone from Seattle with you? Is there any changes you see to the personnel department?
Well, the biggest challenge is just coming in, getting to know the people. Walking down, I've met, 100 people already, it seems like, and shaking hands and just kind of putting the names with the faces. And then really, I just want to get down and get to know the people, see how they work, how they evaluate. People from the road. I know a lot of the scouts from the road, a lot of the personnel guys, but until you're in a building with them or in a room with them evaluating players, you really don't know how they talk, how they think, how they look at players. So really, the first step is getting to know our own staff. And then in terms of other things, everybody else is under contract. I want to know who's here. I think we should try to develop the people that are here and work with the people we know.
All right, final question from Joe Person of The Athletic.
Hey, Scott, you were talking about being in on every deal and trying to get to know the roster a little bit better before that. Have you had any communications yet with some of the sort of core leaders on this team, thinking about McCaffrey, Teddy Bridgewater, guys along those lines? And I wondered if you could give us your assessment of Teddy Bridgewater at this point.
Again, I'm not going to talk about any player specifics. I did have a phone conversation with Jeremy Chin. We have a friend that's his agent. He reached out and we had a really good conversation. I look forward to talking to the other players that are here, getting to know them. I'll reach out to Christian and some of the other leaders on this team. But as of right now, it's just all so new and so much is going on that I'm just trying to get settled. And I just want to get back to the football part of it. It's been so much HR and media. And I look forward to getting down to Mobile and just getting back to football.
All right, that's going to do it for today. Thank you so much to everyone who joined us. Thank you to David Tepper, and a special thank you to Scott Fitterer, and welcome to Carolina. Just as a quick reminder, head coach Matt Rule will be available right around 12:15. Media, you should have already received that link, but if you haven't, just reach out to Panthers PR. All right, thanks again, everybody. Have a great day.